Warframe is a huge game featuring dozens of unique and individual Warframes, all with their own strengths and weaknesses. However, there is one big problem. If you can't spend a lot of time or money, then you will never have enough inventory space to own all of them. But gladly, you also don't have to, because in today's Warframe guide, I'm gonna give you the only 5 Warframes that you will ever need to be successful in the game. With just these few, you'll be able to take on the toughest foes, farm the most resources, and dominate every single game mode. We're gonna talk about what they can do, why they're so important, and of course, how to get them. So after a huge shout out to all my generous channel members who help me keep the lights on, let's jump right into it. Starting out with the list is Necros. Why is he so good? Well, actually pretty simple. Warframe is a very farm-focused game, meaning you will farm a lot of resources to build all the nice and shiny stuff that the game has to offer. And a Warframe who effectively just gives you more resources by simply being on the field is of course a huge boon to your roster. That's all thanks to his third ability, Desecrate. This one only needs to be switched on, and then you'll have a 54% chance for all dying enemies in the vicinity to be re-looted. And I gotta make one thing here very clear, it does not increase the drop chance, it re-rolls the drop table. Why is that important? Well, pretty simple. If an enemy has a 100% drop chance for a certain item already, like for example the Corpus Oxium Ospreys, then further increasing the drop chance, which also some Warframes can do, doesn't get you anywhere. However, if you re-roll the drop table, what Necros does, then it is very well possible that the 100% drop chance will be re-rolled again, so it drops the item twice. That's why Necros is the objectively best and superior loot frame in the game. And what's even better, with the augment mod for his skill, it doesn't even cost you energy anymore to loot the enemies, you will use your own health, and replenishing and self-healing your own health is pretty easy, so you can have that on all the time. But while looting alone is great, that's of course not all that Necros brings to the table. His second skill, Terrify, can distract enemies and, more importantly, strip them of their armor, which is going to become more important as the enemy levels get higher. In fact, Terrify is probably the most popular method in the entire game to strip enemies of their armor. And as if that's not enough, Necros can also tank pretty decently. With his 4th skill, Shadows of the Dead, and the augment, Shield of Shadows, you are one of the few frames in the game who gets a 3rd layer of damage reduction beyond armor and adaptation, so Necros is definitely also Steel Path viable. If you're convinced, then you can just buy his main blueprint from the market for a couple of credits, and the component blueprints will drop from the Lephantis boss fight on Deimos, so already pretty early in the game. So, all in all, Necros is a very versatile Warframe, but even if it was just for the loot alone, he would already be worth your frame slot. And in case this guide here is worth a like, then how about you pass one over to help me spread this video to more people. Cheers for your support, and back to the video. Now, if you play Warframe, then you absolutely have to play the next frame on our list, which would be Revenant. There is no second opinion, Revenant is a must for every single account, and here's why. He simply has it all. He can't die, he can kill everything in one hit, and I already have a specific guide for this very playstyle. To obtain him, you gotta play the quest Mask of the Revenant, which you unlock as soon as you have the rank Observer with the Quills and Cetus, which however requires you to have the main story already played through. If you're not there yet, but you still want to play him right now, then I would recommend looking for the Prime version. That one can be obtained way earlier. But how can he be so good, Blacky, you might be asking, and I'm happy to answer that for you. His second skill, Mesmer Skin, gives him protective charges that make him invulnerable from any damage in the game, no matter how high. As long as you have at least one of these charges, you cannot be damaged, which makes him the one frame that basically everybody in the community agrees on is the #1 immortal frame in the game, because he just doesn't care about the height of the damage that is incoming, he just ignores it. But being tanky is of course not all. With his 4th skill, Danse Macabre, he can clear entire rooms of foes up to Steel Path levels because the rays that he shoots out are adaptive to the damage that the certain enemy is weak against. And just in case you're up against an enemy that is very, very, very high in its levels, way beyond the normal Steel Path range, and his 4 does not do enough damage against that anymore, then no problem, just use his 3. Because the thing with his 3 is that it does not do absolute damage, it takes away a certain percentage of the enemy's max health. And with a high enough ability strength and 10 viral effects on the enemy, it does not matter how high the enemy level is, they will always die in one hit from his 3rd skill. In other words, level 10,000, here we come, because scaling damage. And talking about scaling, your success in Warframe scales with the amount of my videos that you watched. So in case you don't want to miss out on any of them in the future, day one, then you might want to think about leaving the channel a sub, huh? Welcome to the crew. But now that we talked about the king of level cap content, we also of course gotta talk about the queen of level cap, which would be the next frame on our list, and she goes by the name Octavia. Octavia is considered the queen of level cap content because she also basically has it all. She can stay constantly invisible, meaning if you play it right and you pay a bit of attention, you will never die no matter the enemy level. The invisibility of course also makes her good for spy missions, but she also comes with some buffing potential for herself and the team, and that's the important part, just like Revenant, she also has a form of scaling damage with which she can clear entire rooms of enemies in mere seconds, no matter the enemy level. The way she does this is with her skill Mallet, which makes enemies in the vicinity shoot that little ball that she throws on the field, and the ball then dishes the damage that it collected back out to the enemies. Meaning the higher the enemy level, the more damage collected, the more damage dished back out, and that kills basically every enemy equally fast, no matter the level. Not to mention of course the crowd control that also comes in handy when every enemy is concentrated on the ball and not on you and the team. So, speaking from my opinion, personally for me, Revenant and Octavia are the 2 best Warframes in the entire game, but of course, you're free to disagree. To get your hands on her, you gotta play the quest Octavia's Anthem, which you can start with Cephalon Suda on any relay of your choice. And just with Revenant, if you don't want to go through the quest, then just look for Octavia Prime, you may be able to get her faster actually. Next, one of the absolute OGs in the game, which would of course be Volt. Volt is easy to get because you only have to go to your clan's dojo to the Tenno Lab, get all the blueprints, and that's it. The reason he is on this list and why you absolutely want him in your account is because he is one of the, if not the, most versatile and useful Warframe in the entire game. His shields protect you, the team, or defense targets while buffing the damage of everything you shoot through them. His skill Speed helps you do basically everything faster, run melee hits, reload everything. His 4 Discharge crowd controls enemies in the area and can clear entire rooms given the enemy levels are not too high. So all in all, Volt delivers a huge variety in his builds and playstyles. But while versatility in the playstyles is of course important if you only have very few frames available to you, the reason why he's really on the list is because he is a must-have for certain game modes that require a more specified setup to be successful in them. One of them that comes to mind would of course be Eidolon hunts. Eidolon hunts are very optimized by the community, and when you want to pull them off very successfully, you gotta have one of 4 specific frames, and Volt is one of them. So if you have him, that's your entry ticket to a highly optimized Eidolon team, and you will not regret it. Also, if you want to farm focus in the Sanctuary Onslaught for example, or just help a fellow Tenno level their character, weapon, whatever, then Volt for Sanctuary Onslaught is also great, clearing entire rooms and getting that sweet XP and focus. And that's only mentioning some of his specific capabilities. And the best thing is, he's also quite viable in very high level content because with the Augment mod for his 4th skill, he can recharge his own shields, benefiting from shield gating, which is, as we all know, the method to stay alive among very high level enemies. And just in case I forgot to mention some of the things that Volt is very, very great at, please let me know in the comments down below and tell me what else you use him for. Which already brings us to the last frame on today's list. Now, about the last slot on the list, I want to say this one is not set in stone. It's more of a flex slot if you so want. You don't have to agree with me on this point, and if you like someone else rather, then by all means, just go for this frame instead. But I personally would give it to Citrine. Why Citrine? Because, well, pretty much Citrine is one of the, if not the best support frame in the entire game. And I get it, not everybody wants to be a support player, specifically not in Warframe, but she brings amazing abilities to the table that also, if you don't want to necessarily primarily focus on supporting the team, will benefit you in the long run. Her passive heals you and nearby allies constantly. Her 2 gives you and nearby allies up to 90% damage reduction, her 1 makes enemies drop countless health and energy orbs, and her 4 gives everyone in the team guaranteed red crits when hitting affected enemies. As you see, there is quite a lot of goodness to be found here, no matter if you play solo or as an actual support. And the best thing about her is, you don't need any fancy mods to make her work really nicely. In fact, I personally believe she would even work without a single mod at all. And beyond that, you can theoretically already get her pretty early in the game. You can get her blueprints from running the mission Tiana Pass on Mars, or alternatively by purchasing them from OTAG in the Necrolist from resources that you're gonna obtain in said mission. I gotta say, it's gonna take you some time to farm her, it's a bit tedious, but I can definitely recommend her for everyone out there because of one specific thing. If you're playing the game, then sooner or later you will be in a situation where you need a certain resource or a certain item that can only be obtained in an activity that is too high level for you currently in the game, and you will need a team to pull you through in order to get it. And the thing is, if you get in a team that is clearly outmatching you and you're constantly dying and not providing anything, people might be pissed at you, and I can totally understand that. But with Citrine, you will never be in that situation. Even if you're very low level and you're in a high level bounty team, with Citrine, first, it's pretty unlikely you're gonna die all the time, and second, even if you can't do any damage to the enemies in the mission, you will still be of extremely high value for the team because of all the support that you bring to the table. So Citrine is kind of like the key that gives you entry to higher level activities that are actually not meant for you just yet. But as I said, she is not set in stone. You can use other frames here if you like. Which ones? Well, I've already made a list of the best 10 Warframes in 2023 right here, so absolutely go and check that out to get some ideas. Also, another big thank you to Akimbo Fate, Niels V, and Geronimo for your generous support. If you too want to support what I do, then you can hit the join button down below. We see each other, hopefully in the next one, and until then, as always, good loot.